Okay, appreciate everyone coming out today. This topic on where the money is, show me the money. Is anyone making money in mobile yet? This is the year of mobile, right? There's one back there. This is the year of mobile, finally, they say. What's been fascinating is there's every year now for the past 6 years that I've been in the industry, we've recorded 10% increase of adoption of mobile in the industry, in the market research industry. 10% increase annually in adoption of mobile research. However, I have some members of MMRA who are still struggling financially to make that kind of profit. I hear it every day. You know, hey, wasn't the year we expected. While I do see other companies that are doing exceptionally well, a lot of acquisitions going on. There's been several of in the news. You guys probably seen Focus Vision buying a company like every week or so. SSI buying them and closing them down. So you have this kind of stuff happening every day with the financial side of the business. And so our discussion today that we're going to have is just a little bit about what is happening financially in the industry, not only from a macro level within the marketing research realm, but also for you entrepreneurial types out there. We're going to talk a little bit about how you can get some leverage in the industry, and is it needed at this time? So I'd like to introduce our panel here briefly, and then we'll jump right into the discussion. First of all, we have over here, it looks like Heath Greenfield. He is the Executive Vice President of Strategy and Corporate Development at Millward Brown, one of the Kantar companies. Hello, welcome. And we have Philip von Holzendorf-Feeling, I believe, right? Close? All right, there we go. He is a corporate man for many years with Service Masters, with T-Mobile, and now is also the founder of Mama Gaia, which is a restaurant chain that's forming around the idea of organic foods. Merrill Dubrow from Mark Research. You guys probably follow his blog. It's one of the most entertaining ones out there and has been for years. And then finally we have Greg Ellis from Research Now. And so I'd like to jump in with our conversation about this. And by the way, feel free to jump in with your questions at any time. We have 30 minutes and just going to cover a few of the topics. One of the key things is around the idea of using mobile is client demand. So clients jumping in and saying, we need you to do this for us. And a lot of that has to do with scaling up, scalability to meet those demands. I'm wondering, particularly among you agency types first, are you getting a lot of requests for mobile from your clients, or are you pushing mobile to them? How about you, Mark? I mean, Merrill from Mark. Sure.
You know, it's yes and yes, right? So clients are asking for it. We're recommending it when it makes sense. How many people in this room remember 2005, the year of mobile, right? 2006 was the year of mobile, 2007, and finally I think we're pretty close to it right now, right? So everybody's asking it. I think you've got to have a platform, you've got to have partners who can deliver on that. You've also got to have a staff that can handle that. You've got to have clients who understand it, because at the end of the day, I mean, responsible for the P&L of basically a Hannah Michael top 50 or a Gold Report top 50 or whatever the top 50 is called these days. And, you know, we're in it to make money. So it's not just about having, gravitating towards a certain technology. It's about being able to deliver that, having the right staff, having the right clients who can understand that, and then having it be seamless and the right partners. So, I mean, mobile is the obvious one, clearly, Mark, and I think it is here to stay, although it's been a very, very slow adoption.
It has. 2007 was the first smartphone. Actually, June 29th, I just was looking at that. So it's not even 9 years quite. So how about with you, Greg?
Yeah, so at Research Now, as the operators of the largest U.S. and global panels, mobile is both a challenge and an opportunity in our business. So think about the following. You know, a couple of decades ago, when research data collection started the big fast shift from RDD telephone to online, the only internet appliance was a PC. And as researchers, we took full advantage of that ability to capture more information more efficiently and effectively from respondents in less time by designing big surveys with grids, et cetera, that are not remotely mobile compatible. Now fast forward, and over the last 5 years, these are rough numbers, but our respondent base, those millions of panelists that we all depend upon to capture quantitative research information, perhaps 10% of them were opting to complete surveys via mobile devices 5 years ago. Now it's approaching half. And so we need, as an industry, to design mobile compatible surveys, because in the absence of that, our supply literally has fallen by half. And so that's a big challenge as an industry. It's also a big opportunity because we can capture people where they are. We can capture them via directed shop at retail. We can capture cookie-based capture, geo information, et cetera, and integrate that with the survey data. So huge opportunities, but big challenges as well.
Greg, how about with you? What are you hearing clients come to you asking for? No, this is for you, Greg. Yep.
Yeah, I think.
Heath. Sorry.
I think clients are asking for a few things. Really, it's about representing the audience right. It's about giving them a good sample of their target audience. And these days, you cannot do that unless you include mobile in the mix, because mobile is such a big driver of participation in a variety of things, activities, experiences for consumers. And unless you have mobile in the mix, you're simply not providing your client sound insights based on a good representative sample. So I think that's first and foremost. And the other flip side is it varies by market. So we're a global firm, and in my role, I'm trying to launch some new solutions across 40 some markets. And if you're looking to go to Indonesia or Thailand or those markets there, panels simply barely exist. And so the only way you get sample is through mobile devices. So if you want a globally scalable solution, it has to be designed mobile first, and it has to be based on those premises to enable it to be delivering the same quality of data regardless of the market you're going into.
Excellent. And Philip, a different angle for you here, and that is from the client side, as our client panelist. What would you say you're looking for out of mobile companies? Is it their financial strength? Is it their agility? Is it the scrappiness, or what?
I think first and foremost, it's really can they deliver what we need? Because, I seem to be the only one here from the client side, so I can't really speak about, what the overall client demand is. But from my perspective, we come from the business problems, right? We potentially see opportunities and trends, and we want to know something. We have a need, a knowledge gap, and it doesn't really matter in the first place, is that delivered through mobile or not, right? So we ask the question, so can you get this and can you get that? And then typically in today's world, mobile is actually the answer. So it really doesn't matter too much if it's a really large firm or if it's a startup that has something really, really unique that no one else offers. It depends on the situation. It probably also depends on how large your business is. So I've worked for giant companies like T-Mobile and Avis and Deutsche Bank, and I worked for startups, and right now the same thing. And probably startups and smaller companies tend to not be too keen to work with really large firms that have the financial strengths and have been around for ages. It doesn't matter that much to them. Probably you make a gut decision on, is their technology really state of the art, and is it superior, and how good is the team, right? And that's how you make your decisions. And if you're a larger company, probably these things matter a lot, that you have the scale, that you have the size and the financial backing. So it's really, depends on the size of the business. And from my perspective, it seems that mobile is obviously, it's everywhere, right? And now, and being in the restaurant business, how great is it that you can rely on a field agent or similar tools and services where you can get videos right there where the experience is happening, and you can take pictures, you can get pictures, and I mean basically you have all your auditors and out there, and you just have to pay for getting a video and a report back versus having to pay a lot more like you did in the past. And yeah, I think mobile is the way to go. And with all the smartphones being around, I guess we talked last night, 2008, it was when the iPhone was first introduced. I mean, we've come a long way, and now almost everybody has a smartphone, so all these things are possible.
Meryl, in a company like Mark, you guys looking for mergers, acquisitions, partnerships? What are your thoughts about ownership of technology and platforms?
Yeah, well, for those of you who don't know, we're owned by Omnicom. So there's probably a good thing that there's a person between us because we're direct competitors with WPP. But so if we see an opportunity for a potential acquisition, we've got to go through Omnicom. I'm not sure how you guys are set up. So we're probably maybe 5-to-1 in terms of partnerships. You know, Research Now is one of our partnerships. And they've been sort of an extension of our company, which is great, and we thank you for that. We've got a number of other partners out there, but it's probably more partners first for what we're doing, because we don't have feet in the street, you know, in London and Paris. We have partners or vendors that we use that, depending on the type of project that we have, and we think that works better for us and our clients.
Is there a move towards acquisition within that stream?
There is, but it's more of a tuck-on. So it's more of an acquisition that we would use. So if it's a neuro company, or, you know, a few years ago, Omnicom bought Communispace, which has now been changed to C-Space. So they bought that. They bought a number of other companies to tuck them in, and we have something called Capture the Spend, that we all work within that environment to try to utilize all of the resources of basically Omnicom in total. So we have about 90 different companies, and Omnicom in total is about $16 billion now.
You know, and Heath, jump in here too, because I'm curious in particular, because I work with a lot of entrepreneurial groups within MMRA. We have garage students coming and joining, and they just created this thing. They don't even know what a survey is, you know, but they can intercept on Weather Channel or something. Heath, are you guys looking to acquire or assist these entrepreneurial types out there, the garage students out of Georgia Tech or wherever?
Oftentimes, that's where some of the best new thinking comes, is from people that aren't tied to legacy systems or legacy platforms, that are really able to think, you know, in a very fresh way about the space. So, you know, we send people to lots of conferences globally where we're trying to keep our eyes open, our ears open about what companies are out there. We have kind of an open invitation for a lot of times entrepreneurs and new startups to come talk to us, because we want to know what's out there. And you know, WPP is our parent company, and they make a lot of acquisitions every year, but also a lot of investments. So it's you don't have to buy someone to get the advantage of working with them. You can make a minority investment, have a say in what they do, and partner that way. So we have a lot of partnerships where, and especially with younger companies, where they don't really have a full-fledged, you know, revenue-generating business yet. Oftentimes, those minority investments are what they need. They get a cash injection, they get some capital, much like a venture capital company would do, and then you can partner and more or less go on a trial run for the relationship. And so that's what a lot of times we're doing, is giving those types of young upstart companies some help with the capital, and you know, working together on how we can meet client needs.
Excellent. And Greg, with Research Now, you guys have been around for a long time. You have one of the largest mobile panels. Do you guys have a platform for doing mobile?
Sure. So you know, half of our panel are completing surveys via their mobile device, and so we're capturing that data from their mobile device.
Is that your platform? Like you know, you sometimes you get your players like Confirm It and those types out there, right?
So we the way we work is we support our customers on whatever platform they choose to use, and so we do a tremendous amount of work on both the Confirm It and the Decipher platforms, but we allow our clients to program their own surveys on whatever their platform of choice is, and then we provide the sample to fuel that survey.
The reason I'm asking is I'm curious whether the investment is in the technology for facilitating that communication or if it's in maintenance of the panel itself.
So our investments are really all about how do we better support our customers in capturing the best and most actionable data we can capture. And so, and those investments take the form of both M&A activity and really more importantly, partnership activity. And the key thing right now that we're focused on is really integrated data, because what we believe is if you think about how the world has worked historically, in most organizations, there's a silo of primary research, data capture, and an organization built around that, and a separate silo of secondary data and an organization built around that. And we think that the future is characterized by capture via survey, that which can best and only be captured via survey, rational and emotional needs, attitudes, etc. And in general, stop trying to capture via survey that which we all know can't reliably be captured via survey, such as do you take your meds every day as indicated by your physician? Can't get a reliable answer to that question even from the most thoughtful survey respondent. Instead, let's append 3 years of prescription fill patient claims data in a HIPAA-compliant respondent-level anonymized fashion, and then you'll know the truth that in fact this patient's filling their 30-day script every 38 days. And so our big focus is really all about integrated data and integrating survey with cookie-based capture, integrating survey with customer data, integrating survey with a very broad range of third-party append, so that at that respondent-level integration, you get really accurate behavioral data augmented and complemented with the why behind the buy, if you will.
Excellent. Philip, let me ask you on the area, going back to your T-Mobile days, we chatted last night, and I was a little surprised to know that there is, self-identifiable data that's being tracked by the carriers all the time. We're talking about appending data and big data management. Do you see that as being something down the horizon as a new area for growth, a new area for investors, perhaps? Or is that like a scary territory?
It's a delicate question, I think, right? Because I don't think as consumers we want that to be the future, to be quite frank, right? Mm-hmm. Because at some point, the mass data gathering about oneself is needs to stop from a consumer perspective. From a industry perspective, you probably think differently. I do know that certainly T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, all of them are looking at their called data records, CDRs. It's basically what you do on your handset all the time. You're looking up an email right now, you're texting, you're surfing, and what you're surfing, everything is being recorded, and all the data is being used and leveraged. It's not being sold, but it's it's being stored, it's being leveraged. So it's a massive amount of data. So if you're in the wireless industry, you don't really need to do a lot of external mobile research because you basically know your customer. You know exactly their behavior. You can, even if you're a prepaid customer, you're no name, still everything is known about you. So I don't know, it may be a big new trend for the research industry. As a consumer, I wouldn't appreciate it, let's say it that way.
Meryl, what do you think? Passive data versus going out and asking questions, the old-fashioned on mobile.
I totally agree. It's Big Brother, people are really nervous. I mean, yesterday, I just got home from a trip Saturday night. Sunday, I was looking online at some flights to go to Boston. So now all the ads on the computer now are, come to Boston and here's a great fare and blah, blah, blah. It can be a little scary. I mean, they do know where you've been, what you're doing. I mean, if you think about it, I actually had presented at a conference 6 years ago, and I had made a claim on stage that your car could give you a ticket. Like, do we really need police to give tickets? And people almost threw things at me to get off on stage. But if you think about the logic, for a second here, okay? Would we all agree that your car knows where you are? Yes. Would we all agree your car knows how fast you're going? Yes. Would we all agree that your car knows how fast you should be going? Based on GPS, they know the speed limit. So in reality, if people really cared about changing their speeds and going within the limit, the car would, maybe a voice, the Siri voice or whatever, or Mark's voice, would come on and said, hey, slow down in 4 seconds or you're going to get a ticket. And let the police do what the police need to do. And the reality is, with that goofy story, you know, I mean, it's true, and everybody knows where you are, what you're doing, and which probably based on, you know, some equations, know what you're going to do next, right? And it's scary. I think you got to be really, really careful with that, Mark.
I'm going to switch over the topic because privacy is a huge area, of course, and quantified self and all that good stuff. We only have a few more minutes left, and I want to think of two things. One is, as a company, and this is for you, Heath, as a company, how do you know, and for everyone really, how do you know where to go to find a mobile supplier, and how do you know to trust them? Is it looking at their level of investment? Is it looking at their strength, or what? Where do you start?
Great question. I think you know, we've had some conversations lately with some small firms where, you know, it goes back to, you know, good old, do you trust the leader? What kind of character does the CEO have? And what kind of person do you want to work with? And so it's not always about the technology. It's not always about what they can do. It's about the person running the company. And so character counts, and we have to make sure that we're, you know, weighing all those factors on balance with regards to investing. And I think the other thing too is that you've got to, from our perspective, we like to be able to launch globally scaled solutions. And so privacy rules vary by market. And you can have a great solution in the US that just simply won't fly in another country. And therefore, you know, your scale is almost, you know, killed right off the bat. So I think for these small companies, startups in the mobile space, et cetera, where you're thinking about an offer, get familiar with some, you know, privacy-related laws in other markets. Get familiar with how these things are dealt with in emerging markets. And so, therefore, if you're looking to launch and grow something very fast, you won't be limited by, you know, one country or two countries of presence.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a great question, and we also discussed it last night. You know, from my perspective, I mean, you know, these conferences obviously are a great way of, you know, getting to know the players in the industry, talking to someone like you. But what if you don't have that available right now, and you need to make a decision, you have a need, right? And I think there's a gap, and that's something maybe for you guys here in the industry to think about. You know, how can I do my research online in an effective way? I can Google it, but I'm going to be overwhelmed as a client, especially if I'm a startup. You know, I mean, okay, I kind of know what I want, but I don't know what all these players offer. They tend to claim all the same things. So maybe, you know, an overview side, you know, would be helpful, where about mobile research, and could even be on your side, you know, where you have the players and you have the different functionalities, and maybe you have the 3-4 pros and cons, and maybe you have a little bit of a search tool, you know, something like that I would very much appreciate, and then you can narrow down to 2-3 players and then talk to them in person. That'd be great. I think that's missing today.
Yep.
Yeah, let me just add one thing. So if we take out the word mobile for a second, and we put in ethnography or behavioral economics or neuroscience, which I've gotten emails this morning unsolicited from people who are saying, hey, this is the greatest tool ever, please talk to me. And I'm sure everybody in the audience gets those as well. You know, it's a full-time job trying to sort through all that stuff. I mean, how many people are really out there who are totally confused about which technology to use, whether it's behavioral economics or neuroscience or eye tracking? I mean, just raise your hand, okay? I mean, there's a lot of people who are confused with what to do and how to sort through it. So I think that you're right. Whether it's come to a conference, ask people, whether it's go on LinkedIn and find out who's connected to that company, whether that's use some of your industry contacts to say, hey, you know, have you heard of this company? What do you know about them? ask for referrals. I mean, everybody knows about Research Now or Schlesinger or SSI, but they don't know about some of those small companies that may only have a couple $1 million of research. So what I would say is utilize your network, utilize your LinkedIn to find out a little bit more about that company.
Yeah.
Let me actually kind of flip your question and focus for a second on privacy and kind of remind everybody that we're all dependent upon Research Now and a handful of other companies to provide opt-in respondents who are willing to take time and give us thoughtful response data. And all of these techniques are dependent upon that as a foundation. And so one of the things that we spend a lot of time and effort focused on is not only how do we recruit those people and incent and reward them for sharing their opinions and retain them, but how do we make sure that we're treating them well? And so as we talk about privacy and we talk about integrated data and mobile data capture, et cetera, and so forth, really, really important that we respect those respondents, that we remember that they're people, and that we don't do anything that violates their trust. Because if we do, as an industry, we will all suffer.
On that, yeah, excellent. On that note, if you're looking for guidelines on ethics of privacy, you can find them on the Mobile Marketing Research website. Last question?
Yeah, we actually asked to submit questions via the app as well in the
Oh,
run
yes.
to the conference. And one of the questions we picked is from Tom Bassett, and I think it's probably a nice question to wrap up on. It's what are the decision criteria for continuing to self-fund or seek outside investment?
Well, let me turn that slightly. And let's say you're talking to a contestant on Shark Tank. He's coming in front of you. What advice would you have for the contestant on Shark Tank about getting into mobile research? Should they go on their own, or are you going to put your money behind them? What do they have to do to convince?
I think I think going on your own, as long as you can, makes a lot of sense, because when you've got a partner that's providing you capital, that partner insists on certain rights and benefits to that deal, right? So as we would, as Omnicom would, et cetera. So it depends on you and your objectives, right? If you want to control your own destiny and do your own thing, then stay independent as long as possible. If you're interested, if your objective is on the flip side, growing as fast as possible, scaling as fast as possible, and being the market leader, then you might need that capital injection to even get there in the first place. So it depends on your objective, but there are pros and cons to each side.
Excellent.
Yeah, let me give you the flip side. So we love Research Now. They're one of our partners. We are one of their largest clients. We give them millions of dollars a year. And we had some discussions about, do we build it on our own? We decided against it. One of the Omnicom other research companies actually did do it. And they invested 7 figures into this panel. What they do is really hard. I think a lot of people, and not just Research Now, SSI, and all the other panel companies out there, building a panel might be a great idea in the boardroom and think you're going to save all this money, but the reality is this other Omnicom company who invested over $1 million regrets doing it. So I think you got to be really, really careful of how much that investment is and how much time.
If you're a surgeon, you don't need to buy the hospital, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Any other comments from our board? Yes? Yeah, please.
Quick one.
Yep.
So I think, as Heath called out, there really are kind of 2 dimensions to the answer to the question. On the financial side, the question of when do you self-fund versus seek outside funding is really pretty black and white. You do the math in terms of how fast can I grow and maintain 100% ownership, and what is that worth, versus how much faster can I grow and how much do I have to give up in terms of equity to get that growth capital. And so on the financial side, you make those projections and the answer is the answer. But then the other dimension is really all about how important is it to you to control your destiny, and if you truly want to control your destiny, then maintaining that independence is key.
Excellent. Anything else? Any questions from the audience at all? Any other questions, thoughts? Nope. Well, let's get back on track with our agenda then. Thank you very much, gentlemen.